Namaste. Welcome.
Namaste, Jayanti ji.
Welcome and good morning. Vanakkam to all our sisters, brothers, and especially to Daaji. We're very happy that as we celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, and which is also a special coincidence that this is the 75th year of freedom of India being celebrated as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are extremely happy to welcome Daaji this morning to Auroville as a part of the talks in Auroville. So we want to extend our special namaste, welcome, and hope that the time with his guidance is something which is amazingly beneficial for all of us. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone. My humble gratitude and a special thanks to Vanam Jayanti for inviting us, the members of Heartfulness, joining hands at Auroville, celebrating Pujya Sri Aurobindo's birth anniversary, 150th birth anniversary. The great names of Aurobindo stands out along with Swami Vivekananda and many great personalities of that order. Their contribution in upliftment of humanity's consciousness is enormous. He dreamt of this world where the superconsciousness, the supramind of God can descend and engulf each and every one and benefit from the supramind of God so that peace may prevail on its own, love and harmony may prevail on its own. It's a lofty dream to be fulfilled. Many of us struggle with this idea of why are we here on this planet? What is the purpose of our existence? Many a times the answer comes doing our best. In each field, whatever we are, maybe we are doctors, maybe you are IT professionals, maybe you are businessmen, you are homemaker, you're a farmer, doing your task as best as possible. Anything less will always make your heart heavier, filled with guilt, not having reached your full potential. And that spoils the consciousness. Guilt is the biggest weight on our consciousness. When we read all this literature and when we contemplate on all this, one thing stands out very strongly, that our existence, as we see this life in the physical body, there is invisible mental body, and often impalpable subtle body called the causal. Physical body, now fundamental question arises, can it evolve? If the purpose of life is evolution, can the body evolve? I may like to swim like a dolphin and fly like an eagle, but how many years, millions and millions of years it can take for me to fulfill my dream of flying or swimming like dolphin? I don't have millions of years at my disposal. The limited aged frame that I have, I can only age and decay. So physical body definitely cannot evolve. It can only age. Next thing, let's talk about the soul, the cause of our existence. Whether you call it soul or whether you call it life force, but something keeps us going, whether you believe in God or not. But one fundamental fact remains that there is something within me that keeps me alive. People call it Atman, soul. Many names are there. Science says it's a life force. So let's stick to that, whatever makes you happy. All our literature, ancient literature says soul, the life force, remains the way it is. It is eternal. It is pure in itself. There is nothing you can add to it. No possibility of evolution. So both the ends, the physical body as well as the causal body, they cannot evolve. Then what evolution are we talking about? We're talking of evolution of consciousness. That is possible. Then in order to understand this consciousness, what becomes of this consciousness? If you see this slide, there's a larger circle that represents consciousness. And within its terrain, there is intellect, there is mind, and there is ego. The field of consciousness is affected by all these lower circles of intellect, mind, and ego. Consciousness keeps changing from the animal level of existence to human level of existence to divine level of existence, and much more beyond that. Consciousness is affected by our intellect, our mind, the way we think, the way we feel also, and how this ego interferes or refines our consciousness. So let's study what becomes of mind, for example. If consciousness has to evolve, the other three things and many other aspects related to consciousness field has to be studied. We're going to touch only on these three aspects: intellect, mind, and ego. What becomes of intellect? What becomes of mind? And what becomes of ego at the pinnacle of evolution of consciousness? Mind. So in order to understand evolution of mind, we have to understand the function of the mind. Function is to think. Function of the mind is to think. What becomes of it when it is fully evolved? It remains in resonance with the heart. Mind eclipses with individual heart. Mind moves away from mere thinking into instant feeling. Let me share with you something. When you are encountering some problems in life, you become morose and you keep brooding over it for days or months together until your mother or your spouse or your sister notices it. They begin asking you, "Oh, what is wrong with you?" And you may share the problem that you have with them. Often they come up with the instant solution even before you finish your questions or the problem. How does that happen? How does your mother is able to feel the problem, or your wife feels the problem and comes up with a solution which you could not solve by continuous thinking or brooding over it? Problems can easily be solved by feeling the problem. Likewise, experiencing, when we meditate with thought, idea of the thought. And what is the thought? We think that divine presence is there in my heart. It's a thought. But as the process unfolds during meditation, we move away from thinking to feeling. There's a little step or larger, greater steps we take during meditation where thought is actualized in the form of experience. That is the progress of the mind, when it moves away from thinking to instant feeling. You think of God, and instantly you are able to feel. You think of your beloved, you're feeling the essence, the vibratory pattern of your beloved right in you. Likewise, the intellect. Intellect, what becomes of intellect as it evolves? Psychology says intellect, when it matures, becomes intelligence. When intelligence matures, it becomes intuition. When intuition evolves, it becomes wisdom. There are no special words when you to quote what becomes of wisdom when it evolves. There are no words for it. Likewise, ego. What becomes of ego? Is there anything like ego at all? Yes. Ego can be your best friend, just as mind can be your best friend, as well as your worst enemy. Many people who meditate, they are tormented because they are not able to regulate their mind, and they begin to consider, I have been victimized by my own mind. My mind doesn't stop thinking rubbish. Likewise, ego. I can prevail upon anyone with ego and become the target of their hatred. Will that help me evolve? When many people hate you because you are so egoistic, what becomes of your consciousness? Think over it. If you're a musician, for example, and you are good at playing a flute, and you share this knowledge with people in Auroville, oh, I can play flute, and immediately Sister Jayanti will say, why don't you come and perform? You go to Pondicherry at Auroville and start performing your flute. Fine. Is it egoistic to say, I'm a flutist? No. It's a fact. If you're a doctor and you say you're a doctor, there is no ego about it. It's a statement of fact. It is what it is. Once you perform your flute recital at Pondicherry, at Auroville, everyone on their feet and clapping away for a few minutes, you feel so much of satisfaction in your heart that, wow, I did well. The next day, you are invited again. Would you be happy with your yesterday's performance or today's performance? You will like to surpass your own performance. So here, the very idea that I would like to surpass my own performance that was yesterday, I can become even better. So, ego is now utilized in your own individual transformation of your talent. You are taking your own talent to a next level. There is improvisation. But to say that nobody is better than me in entire India in playing the flute, I am the best, no one is better than me, then it is arrogance. So ego can manifest with many faces, it can show many faces. It is up to us how to transcend the mind, the intellect, and ego, and affect this field of consciousness. Wrong thinking of the mind, applying wrong intelligence to logic, and blatantly becoming arrogant. What becomes of consciousness? It will shrink, it will contract. Per contra, when you do find or you come across that eureka moment like Archimedes, the intelligence, the thinking, and the ego, he did not even realize that he was naked in the tub and started running eureka, eureka, eureka. He was not even conscious of himself. What becomes of consciousness then? It simply skyrockets. It is at its pinnacle. Now, coming back to Pujya Sri Aurobindo's dream. It was a dream, but was it practical? Suppose if he was successful in bringing down the supramind of God on earth, can you imagine what would have happened to earth? It would have been totally transformed. Every human being, every tree, every animal creature, every little thing on this planet would change. But does or can the nature tolerate uniformity everywhere? Let me ask you one thing. If everyone in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Middle East, China, Russia, all throughout the planet, everyone were given entry to heaven all at once, virtuous and non-virtuous, saints and criminals, all given free entry to heaven, what will become of that heaven? Can you call that heaven anymore? Changing consciousness means changing your own self from within. Transformation. Reigning of consciousness from heavens, from supramind of God, is comparable to reigning from the sky. The actual rain that we experience in monsoon in India. It falls in Telangana, where it is rocky land. It falls in Rajasthan, full of desert. It falls in forests, falls in rivers and oceans. We all individual human beings are like these entities. Some are forests, some are stones, some are like rivers, some are like fertile soils, fertile heart. Fertile hearts can take the benefit of when the consciousness reigns from above. Hearts which are stone-like, desert-like. Of course, the rains will cool them a bit, but you cannot grow anything on them. So even if Supreme Mind of God had an opportunity of descending, how many would get this transformation? It would be possible only in those hearts who are receptive. And our receptivity is different. Each individual's receptivity is different. It was a beautiful dream of Pujya Sri Aurobindo. It is up to us how to fulfill those dreams and actualize that potential. He was not ignorant about it. He knew very well that if Lord Krishna could not change the consciousness of Duryodhana, if Lord Rama could not change the consciousness of Ravana or his mother Kaikeyi, what are we? We are mere human beings. Great personalities like Swami Vivekananda or Auroville, they can dream all they like. If gods can fail, who are we to succeed in changing, transforming human individuals? Each one of us has to be welcoming to this change. Each one of us has to become thirsty and hungry for such a change. Each hunger or thirst are they possible to be quenched or quelled? Philosophies and theologies, however great, only purpose they can serve is to create some longing in our hearts, create some level of thirst, create some level of hunger for higher level of consciousness. Having such levels of longing, what is the next step? I must fulfill my thirst. I must quench my thirst or quell my hunger. I learn to eat, I learn to drink, and that is the practice. The way we have this consciousness is very limited. This limited consciousness is like a thin film of water, which is sandwiched between two giant oceans of superconsciousness and subconsciousness. We must allow this thin film, which is sandwiched between two giant oceans, to expand into superconsciousness and permit it to dive deeper into subconsciousness. Is it going to happen automatically? No. Can anyone bring it down? Can Lord Krishna bring it down? Can the great Pujya Sri Aurobindo bring it down and help me rise in my superconsciousness and dive into subconsciousness? The thin film can become a broad band. I can go into superconsciousness only through meditation and meditation alone. I must practice. Reading books, intellectualizing, it is not going to help me reach and cross or make me fly into sky of superconsciousness. Only meditation. And not just meditation of ordinary type. It must be aided by something that can take my consciousness and help me fly into superconscious. You need a carrier. And that carrier has to be more refined than consciousness itself. And what is more refined than consciousness? We'll take up that in the next argument. And what about the subconscious, which is the darkness? How this subconsciousness was created? All psychologists agree that subconsciousness is the product of my past. And past baggage remains ingrained in our being, in our consciousness, in two forms. Mainly, one is emotional memory, and another is cognitive. Emotionally, I can forgive anything, but I cannot forget because it is hardwired in my brain. Memory, especially the cognitive memory, is hardwired in my brain. Emotional is also embedded in my consciousness, but I can let go of it. I can reduce the burden of my emotional memory by letting it go, by forgiving, by doing the evening cleaning that is taught in heartfulness way. Evening cleaning does one fundamental thing. It improves our understanding. And when understanding is there, new awareness sets in. And with this new awareness, the darkness created by all these impressions can go away, can be removed. Rising into sky of superconsciousness, when we close our eyes and we reach to that superconsciousness in a very natural way. through Pranahuti. And this soaring into the sky of consciousness, again, just as supra mind can affect the heart's consciousness of people, depending upon the level of opening of their heart. More open the heart, more deserving the soul, it can impact us in a better way, faster way, and impactful way. Consciousness, people say, what is the use of improving consciousness? Can you give me some examples? How consciousness can change my life? What are the practical applications of consciousness? Refined consciousness versus a very gross level of consciousness. Consciousness, in order to understand this role of consciousness, I will have to define what is consciousness. It can simply be defined as one thing. It's a degree of awareness. Next step. Once you become aware with your consciousness, what do you do next? You respond, you reciprocate in most proper way. So consciousness is also about reciprocating appropriately. Degree of awareness with calculated or appropriate reciprocated response. Reciprocal response. Let me explain to you what I'm trying to say. You are in your bedroom with your wife. You have some argument. You're fighting. You're on top of your voice. Suddenly your toddler, your daughter comes into the room. This 4-year-old. Moment you notice your daughter has entered the bedroom, that means you have become aware of her presence. This awareness is noticed. How will you reciprocate? How will you respond? Would you continue fighting? Or would you start smiling at each other and take your daughters in your arms and hug her? That's one level of response. If you don't do this and continue fighting, that also reflects your level of consciousness. Well. We are all struggling. We are all moving ahead. Some with a turtle speed, some will giant quantum leaps. But we all are moving. Trees and animals, they are also evolving at consciousness level. But through meditation, millions of years can be saved. You are then on an accelerated path of evolution or of helping evolve your consciousness. That's why Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, and sages like Astavakra, Vasistha Muni, Vishwamitra, they all talk about consciousness, how to help it evolve. If you read Vasistha Sanhita or Vishwamitra's contribution or Ram Gita, Astavakra Gita, this was the same time Raja Janak having dialogue with Astavakra. Lord Rama and Lakshman talking about consciousness during their journey in forests. That was the only entertainment they had all through 14 years. Both brothers and Mother Sita would sit together under a tree and talk about consciousness. And it is there registered in Lakshman Gita or Ram Gita. You can refer that. You can also look into consciousness, topics on consciousness but in Vasistha Sanhita. This was the same time, same epoch. So you can say consciousness is not a new topic for us. It has been going on and on and on. But somehow we have lost the way of how to improve it, how to make this consciousness soar into sky of superconsciousness and allow it to plunge into deepest oceans of our subconsciousness. Again, heartfulness way of practice helps us to broaden this very fine film of consciousness. When you hear all this thing, it looks so beautiful. Oh, wow, consciousness. Makes you happy to listen. It makes you also happy to undergo such dreams. Okay, I would like to evolve my consciousness. Great. You feel blissful when you are at its pinnacle. The bliss of a yogi, romance of the teenagers, or romance of married people, or the playing of children with their toys. They're all degrees of pleasures, degrees of enjoyment. Just as a child is happy with playing toys, teenagers and married people happy with their romance. Yogi is also in a state of bliss, savoring the flavors spectrum of consciousness. It's also like a toy in the hands of a yogi. You are still playing with a toy. I will leave you with the question, my dear friends. What is beyond consciousness? What is it that supports this consciousness? Thank you for your listening and look forward to your visit at Kanha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. Pranams to everyone.
Pranams.